Europe is watching Georgia now, and that should terrify the rest of college football. Because when a program from Athens, Georgia starts becoming a talking point in major European media, this is no longer just about winning football games. This is about influence. This is about power. This is a machine so dominant, so loud, and at the same time so strangely under-discussed by its rivals, that even newspapers across the Atlantic are being forced to admit what SEC fans already know. Georgia is not just a team anymore. Georgia is a global signal. Think about what that means. The Guardian, one of the most recognizable newspapers in the United Kingdom, has repeatedly put Georgia right in the middle of the biggest college football conversations. One of the clearest examples came when Georgia walked into Austin and knocked off #1 Texas 30-15. The Guardian's recap zeroed in on Trevor Etienne's 3 rushing touchdowns and the turnovers forced by Dalen Everett that flipped the game and stunned the Longhorns on their own field. That was not framed like a lucky upset. It was framed like a statement, a message, a reminder that when Georgia locks in, even the biggest brand in the room can be made to look small. And that is where the story starts getting dangerous for Alabama and Texas fans. Because Europe is not reacting to Georgia as some regional power with a hot season. Europe is reacting to Georgia as a standard, as a measuring stick, as the program everyone else has to explain themselves against. The Guardian kept that theme alive later when it covered the SEC race and the postseason bracket. First, it highlighted Alabama surviving Auburn to earn a shot at Georgia in the SEC title game. Read that carefully. Not Georgia fighting for relevance, not Georgia begging for attention, but Alabama clawing its way toward another chance to deal with the Bulldogs. Then, when the college football playoff bracket came out, The Guardian noted that SEC champion Georgia had secured one of the top 4 seeds and a first-round bye. That is how empires are described, calmly, almost clinically, as if dominance has become routine. And routine dominance is exactly what drives rivals insane. Because the secret that Georgia's enemies do not want repeated is this: the Bulldogs have reached the point where even transition years are still elite years. Even roster turnover years are still playoff years. Even seasons that the outside world tries to frame as down somehow end with trophies, top seeds, and national relevance. Reuters captured that dynamic in the summer of 2025 with one of the most revealing descriptions of the program. The report focused on quarterback Gunnar Stockton and Kirby Smart leading Georgia through what it called an unfamiliar youth movement. But even the phrasing told the truth. Georgia was not collapsing, Georgia was reloading. The article treated Stockton not as the symbol of panic, but as part of the next phase of a program that keeps regenerating talent and keeps staying in the title picture. That is the real conspiracy of modern college football. Georgia is one of the few teams that can lose stars, replace stars, and still scare everyone in the room. And Kirby Smart is the mastermind behind it. That matters because in Europe, when an outlet like The Guardian or a global wire like Reuters chooses to mention Georgia repeatedly, they are not doing it out of SEC nostalgia. They are doing it because Georgia keeps forcing itself into the story through results, through pressure, through the kind of roster development that looks almost industrial. Look at what Reuters highlighted after the 2025 season when Georgia players started declaring for the 2026 NFL Draft. Wide receiver Zachariah Branch led the Bulldogs with 81 receptions, 811 yards, and 6 touchdowns. C.J. Allen led the team with 88 tackles in 2025 and finished his Georgia career with 205 total tackles. Oscar Delp left as Georgia's top receiving tight end from that season. Those are not just good college players. Those are proof of system continuity, proof that Georgia keeps producing NFL-caliber output while rivals keep recycling excuses. And here's the part nobody in Tuscaloosa or Austin wants to say out loud. European media is not obsessed with every SEC program equally. They react to brands that create unavoidable moments. Georgia has done that again and again. Beat Texas in a showcase game? That becomes international copy. Win the SEC and lock a bye in the playoff? That becomes international copy. Reload with a younger roster under Kirby Smart and still put elite talent into the draft pipeline? That becomes international copy. That is not random. That is a pattern. The silence from rivals is what makes it even funnier. Because when Georgia wins, the coverage sounds like inevitability. When Alabama wins, it still sounds like Alabama trying to protect old power. When Texas wins, it often sounds like hype trying to become reality. But when Georgia wins, especially in the reports we found, it sounds like structure. It sounds like muscle memory. It sounds like a program that already knows where this is going before the season even begins. That is why Georgia being noticed in Europe matters more than casual fans realize. It means the Bulldogs are no longer just dominating the American conversation. They are exporting the image of power. They are becoming one of the first true college football brands whose intimidation factor translates beyond local fandom and conference tribalism. A newspaper reader in London may not know every recruiting battle. A sports editor in Madrid may not track every SEC depth chart twist. But when Georgia keeps appearing in the biggest results, even they understand the basic truth. This program is operating at a different level. And that is exactly what should worry Alabama and Texas, because Georgia does not need the loudest PR campaign. Georgia does not need desperate off-season propaganda. Georgia just needs the scoreboard, the hardware, the playoff position, the NFL pipeline, and the Kirby Smart machine. Once those pieces are in place, the world starts doing the talking for them. That is what these reports really reveal. The Guardian saw a team that marched into Texas territory and turned the #1 team into a headline about Georgia. The Guardian also saw a postseason picture where Georgia stood as SEC champion and top 4 playoff material. Reuters saw a program tough enough to survive roster change, young enough to evolve, and talented enough to keep sending names to the draft with real production behind them. Put all of that together and the message becomes impossible to miss. Europe is not covering Georgia as a curiosity. Europe is covering Georgia as a force. And maybe that is what irritates the rivals most. Not just that Georgia wins, not just that Georgia recruits, not just that Georgia develops, but that Georgia has become so big, so stable, and so impossible to ignore that newspapers an ocean away are now helping document the rise of the Bulldog empire. That is the kind of thing dynasties do. So the next time someone tells you Georgia is slipping, or Georgia is vulnerable, or Georgia is somehow losing control of the sport, remember what the international coverage is actually showing. A program that beats giants, a program that claims championships, a program that reloads under pressure, a program whose coach still sets the tone, a program whose players keep producing numbers that turn into draft capital and fear. That is not decline. That is expansion. And if the European press is noticing it now, then the rest of college football is already late. So here's the real question for Alabama and Texas fans. If Georgia is supposedly not the empire, why does every big moment keep sounding like another chapter in Georgia's rise? Why does the international media keep circling back to Athens when it's time to talk about power, pressure, and proof? Maybe because deep down they know what Georgia fans already know. The Bulldogs are not chasing the standard. They are the standard. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next time we expose what the rest of college football is too nervous to admit out loud. And for the Alabama and Texas fans watching right now, here's the question. Are you actually building something bigger than Georgia, or are you just watching the Bulldogs' success with pure envy while Athens keeps getting the last word?